Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thriving Adoptees podcast. So today I'm delighted to be joined by a fellow adoptee. We need more adoptees on the show. So if you're listening, you're an adoptee and you'd like to come on and have a chat, then get in touch with me, Simon at thrivingadoptees.com. We have loads of adopted parents, but so I'm always delighted to have a fellow adoptee. Emma, welcome to the show. Really looking forward to today's
Me too, Simon. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So as well as being an adoptee, Emma is also an author. And when I spoke to her about a month or so ago, she was talking about her book, The Gathering Place. And I bought it, and I bought it on Audible because I love listening to audios when I'm walking the dog, and ironing and all sorts of things. I find that's the only time I actually find, other than when I'm on vacation, to read books. So we're gonna. It's a fantastic book, and it looks like a bio. It looks like a biography. It looks like a story. But reading it, I thought it was incredibly inspirational and empowering, because the learnings that Emma's had over the years are things that I really resonated with me, rocked my world, and I think it's an excellent book to understand some really common themes within and challenges that as adoptees face. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a few of the themes that really stood out for me as I was listening to the book. So I had to keep on stopping it and then send a little email to myself to remind me about these things that I was going to talk about. So it's really, you've been really vulnerable in the book, and you talk about addiction and how you have come through that. I haven't been through that, but the addiction bit that really hit me straight between the ears, I guess, because I was listening to it rather than the eyes, was you said we're addicted to our own way of thinking.
Absolutely.
So I thought that is 100% true. That I have been and continue to be addicted to my own way of thinking. Perhaps less than I used to be, but yeah, I'm addicted to my own way of thinking. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think that, just like you said, if we're honest, we're all addicted to our own way of thinking. And I think it requires just that reflective thought of monitoring your own self and seeing, am I doing this because I'm fearful, or am I doing this based on what I really know to be true? And I think that for me, I had to have a lot of things come right to the very peak, the very head of everything in my life, to be able to look fear in the face and say, is this story true? And once I started asking those questions, I gave myself the chance to give myself honest answers.
Yeah.
And a lot of things fell away as a result of that. And I started being less addicted to my own way of thinking.
Yeah. So what thoughts did you used to be addicted to?
Okay, well, here's an example. We're talking about adoptee, relinquishy things. I'm a bad baby. Well, that I had to say, maybe that's implicit in my system, in the body keeps the score type of a way. But is it true? And I know that's a core belief that a lot of adoptees have, but through integration of what do you want to believe is true? And you have to start maybe integrating those thoughts and saying, that's not true. There's no baby that's a bad baby. But even though my body is remembering that, feeling that, when I integrate, I'm able to choose a new pathway. And I'm all about taking choice in my life now versus just going on feeling or going, what I'm addicted to or what my thoughts are. I'm just challenging everything.
Yeah. My own equivalent to your bad baby thought was, my birth mother didn't love me enough to keep me. So therefore I am unlovable. And I guess unlovable and bad baby
Yeah, similarities.
are pretty, a pretty close thoughts, aren't they? The word story is one that that really stuck out for me, because I came up with this little idiom for this, and I guess I'll do it. It's an American in an American context. So I thought I was listening to the voice in my head, okay, that told me that a birth mother didn't love me enough to keep me, right, and I'm unlovable, and I thought I was listening to CNN. Right? So I thought I was listening to the truth, or I guess in the UK we'd say I was listening to the BBC, right?
Right.
But I wasn't. I was listening to Comedy Central. I was listening to a work of fiction. The story in my head was fiction. It was not fact. And I think that's the truth of it. We don't see the truth. We're addicted to our own way of thinking because we think it's true.
Or we've been told it's true and we believed it through our conditioning. Yes,
absolutely. Conditioning. We have been, like, I often think of as all kids, as their brains are like sponges. So they soak up whatever's around them. So they soak up the good stuff, or they soak up the bad stuff, or they soak up a bit of both. But with this stuff, we're talking about, clearly we're talking about the bad stuff. We are believing what other people say to us. An idea is growing. The idea that we're not good enough, the idea that we're a bad baby, the idea that my birth mother didn't love me enough to keep me, that is growing, and it's festering. It's festering in a way, and it's getting worse, and and we're believing it more, and it's becoming like a self-fulfilling prophecy for us.
Right.
That we are not good enough. And the most interesting point about this, I think, that I've heard, because I've done my spiritual searching, or my search for happiness, whatever you want to call it, I've done that outside the adoption world. I did it with non-adoptees, and none of them think that they're good enough either.
Right. Yeah, I get you.
But we, as adoptees, we've got incontrovertible evidence, because we were given away, and what sort of mother gives their child away? And how could anybody do that? And all society says, well, how could they do that? How could they do that? And therefore we internalize it. So my birth mother didn't love me enough to keep me, I'm unlovable, or I'm a bad baby, or something like that. That's the addiction is the festering of the work of fiction that's in our head, and it's got us by the, it's got us by the, yeah, it's got us by the short and curlies, hasn't it?
Yeah. I also feel like that we're, as adoptees, we have an overdeveloped sense of responsibility. And I know for my own self that I didn't know who else to blame about being relinquished or being adopted. So I blamed myself. And I took on everyone else's sins and thought that I was the one to pay for them. And I was responsible to make everyone else happy. And it wasn't until I figured out that that was a broken story that I exited that. And that was a great relief to figure out that I'm not to blame for all of that. I had no say in being adopted or being chosen by my adoptive parents or not becoming the person that they wanted me to be. None of that was my fault.
Yeah.
And I was always normal. I was just acting, a very normal and an abnormal situation, as we all say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. I didn't have that.
With your adoptive parents?
Yeah, I didn't have that.
That's great.
The one of the breakthrough thought for me, I was sharing this yesterday with somebody. It's a bit of a metaphor of a story, right? So back between school and college, I lived in Germany for a while, and I worked in a coffee factory. And I stood by these machines. So the bricks of coffee, they're like the foil wrapped, vacuum packed bricks of coffee. They were on a conveyor belt, and they were coming. They were coming from the next part of the factory, and they come down in a carousel. And I was watching 3 of these machines, and as they came down the carousel, the machine would test whether the vacuum was still intact, because it was vacuum packed coffee to keep it fresh, right? And if it wasn't, it would punch them out of the way. Okay, and if the vacuum had got broken somehow, and that didn't happen very often, but otherwise the bricks of coffee would move along the conveyor belt, and then they would be put on a little bit of a table, and the box would be robotically wrapped around them. So there was a box of 12 bricks of coffee, right? When I got my adoption file and realized that the adoption plan was made before I was born, I realized, well, it wasn't the fact that I was a bad baby, right? That she took one look at me and then rejected me, like the coffee machine, that coffee machine wrapping. It rejects the bad bricks. So it didn't. She'd planned to do this before she'd seen me. It wasn't that she didn't like me,
right?
That she didn't love me. That was the kind of story that came to my head. But what do you mean, an overdeveloped
sense of responsibility?
Yeah, what do you mean by that? Can you give me an example? I'm a practical
Here's
kind
a
of guy.
good example.
Yeah.
In a therapy session with my counselor, I was sitting on a couch, and there was a clock across the room, a wall clock, and it fell off onto the floor and crashed. And my first response was to say, "I'm sorry," as if I had anything to do with that clock falling off the wall.
Wow.
So I'm always the first to, well, in my past, I was the first to always apologize for things that I had no control over. And it took me learning the serenity prayer to only accept what, my side of the street and what I'm responsible for. I had nothing to do with that clock falling, But my innate internal response was, I'm responsible for that. I'm so sorry. And I've had to work on that really hard to get rid of that, to
Yeah.
only accept what's mine and let others take care of what's theirs.
Yeah. See, I said I didn't feel that, but when you shared the example, I'm a practical guy rather than a theoretical. I asked you for the example because I learn more through examples than I learn from theory. So theoretically, I don't think, oh no, I'm not like that. But then, yeah, I can see a bit of that in me, you know. It's a bit like I don't know.
It's those implicit thoughts.
Sorry?
It's not, it's implicit. It's not, it's pre-verbal. It's things that, you know, people show you that aren't, it's maybe in body language or the way someone looks at you and you automatically respond in a certain way. It doesn't really have rational thought behind it, but it's still driving your bus. So let's say my bad baby example, whether I'm in tune with it or aware of it or not, unless I do some work around it, I'm doing things in my life based on that I'm a bad baby, you know, making a bad choice here, making a bad choice there. And it all stems back from that core issue that I haven't dealt with.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And implicit means you're not aware of it. Now, explicitly, if I said, Simon, you look really tan today. That's something I put right in front of you. But implicitly, if I were, you know, turn my back to you and you thought, wow, there's something wrong there, but I can't put my finger on what it is. So I gave you a feeling or something implicitly.
So how do we break through how do we break through from these?
Some damn hard work. Some really damn hard work, and being intentional about, you know, getting to the bottom and questioning yourself, dismantling, deconstructing previous conceived ideas of what you've always thought to be true. And if you don't challenge those thoughts, then you're just going to stay addicted to your way of thinking or addicted to your struggle because you're too afraid to do anything else. Yeah. But if you're intentional about, dang it, I want to get to the bottom of this and figure it out. And I want to, I think when my ball started rolling in that direction, that's when I experienced joy. Because the clouds started clearing and I was able to connect dots I'd never been able to connect before. Confusion was just dissipating. And it was where the magic started happening. Yeah.
So this, I love that. Can you sense a book coming? When you say I think the biggest one for me is that the intentional part. That's the bit that most resonated with me, and being intentional about it. So I'm intentional about learning more about stuff like this sort of stuff. And what does that mean? That means that I listen to podcasts and listen to audiobooks whilst I'm walking the dog and driving in my car. So I'm intentional about it. It's not happening by accident. So and I'd say challenging, I would say, yeah, I'm open, or more open than I used to be, because I think it's degrees of openness, you know. So somebody, a friend recently is struggling. I feel that he's struggling. I asked him, as in with mental health, and I asked him, and it's just, and I said to him, if you ever want to talk about this, you haven't been quite yourself recently. I sent him a little text, because I knew he'd shut me down straight away if I rang him about it or did it face to face. So I sent him a text, thought I'd give it a bit of breathing room. You haven't been yourself recently. If you ever want to chat, if you ever want to shout. So I was giving him a future option, right? Not right now. And he came back straight back. No, I'm fine, thank you. Right. And a year on, that was a year ago, and he's still struggling. And he's still, he doesn't realize it. He hasn't got enough kind of self-awareness to realize what's going on, right? So whereas I would say, yeah, perhaps I used to be a little less closed, a little bit more closed down and a little bit more open. I'm open to stuff. I was like, oh right, yeah. Oh, you think what's up? I'm ring the guy up and say, so what if it was me, I'd be saying, so what I haven't noticed this. I don't know what I'd say. I don't know if anybody ever says to me. I'd say, oh yeah. I'm struggling with some stuff at the moment. Have you been through anything like this? Can you shed any light on it? So the hard work one, you said hard work, down to hard work. What do you mean by that?
Well, I guess I can only say for myself, I had to get to that fork in the road. And I was so addicted to my own struggle. And for me, it was alcohol. And I had to choose life over death because the path I was on was, I was self-sabotaging to the extent that I wasn't going to last much longer. And I didn't know which way I was going to go, to tell you the truth. But something clicked in me. I got counseling. I went to AA. I had to go through detox. And through that, I was just on my knees. I had no other option. I had to disintegrate to that point to make a choice, to be willing to change.
Yeah.
And I was doing things in small increments, but the more I challenged all my thoughts in every area of my life, which included adoption, and it included my thoughts about the holy mystery of God and of gender roles, of racism, everything. And through that, I was able to, just start putting the pieces back together in a way that I was more reflective about life, questioning myself all the time of, is that what I think to be true? And, and I had to start listening to people I respected, like Father Richard Rohr, or Rob Bell. I don't know if you've heard of the Robcast. Just more of an inclusive thought about life instead of being, my team's better than your team. My team is the winner, so sad you're the loser. And I think a lot of us had that mentality of my country's better than yours.
Sorry about that, listeners. We had a little bit of a glitch there. The Wi-Fi went down. So, Emma, you were talking about the Robcast, and you were talking about this kind of animosity and thinking that you said that our country's better than yours, and then we got that bit. So.
Right. So I kind of collected all of that research that I'd been looking at and tried to ask myself what I felt to be true. And through all of that, pasting myself back together and realizing, here, let's talk about the bad baby thing again. What I reconciled is that I believe that life wants life. And so how could I have been born and been a bad baby if, life wanted me to be here? It's a miracle any of us are here.
Yeah.
And so through all this research and repasting and constructing order, disorder, reorder, I was able to come out. I feel like I'm coming out of the other side. I'm in the process of being a thriving person in all areas of my life. And it's where I feel the magic is where the joy is.
Yeah. it's fantastic. You know, I love that. As you were talking about the truth, Byron Katie came to mind. Have you've done her stuff?
I've heard of her, yes.
Yeah, Byron Katie. So is this true? Do I know this is true? In the turnaround, it's a really, doing the work. Is it called, the book? I've read a couple of her books. Yeah, I think it's a very, what's the word? Deceptively deep exercise. Doing the work. You can do it at one level, or you can do it with an incredible profundity. And what strikes me is that what you've done has had incredible profundity, and it has been hard work. The whole thing. When you said hard work, I thought you were meaning the kind of the epiphany moments were hard work, rather than the whole process. So that was just me mishearing it, I think.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, Simon, I think you would probably agree that it's a lot harder work to stay stuck where you are and keep paying the same price, learning the same lessons over and over again, than to do your work, be reflective, accept the invitation of showing up in your life the way you want to. I think that in the long run, that's a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
The payoff is so much greater.
The payoff is so much greater. And I love that phrase. I've written that down. Life wants life. I think that's.
Yes, life wants life. It's so simplistic, but it's the absolute truth.
It's the truth, yeah. And you preempted me by mentioning the holy mystery halfway through your last comment.
Yes.
What's the holy mystery?
I believe that that comes from my ideas of when I deconstructed the whole idea of what I was imagining God or our maker, whatever, spiritual being you want to call it. I had made that spirit be so small because from my conditioning, thinking of God as being the old man upstairs with the long beard and maybe being a little more like a dad that you're in trouble with. And so when I really started thinking of, I don't think that that's how I feel about the Holy Mystery. I feel that spirit is more about a web of everything being connected. Everything is spiritual. Everything has relationship. And I think that's why connectedness is a lot, adoptees thrive on that when we find our community. And I know that's true for human beings in general, but adoptees, I feel like that's where I'm finding a lot of healing and validation is through our community. But that's what I think of the Holy Mystery.
Okay. So there's a couple of things there. I want to break them down into two bits. So I think we'll deal with the bit that's perhaps a little bit more straightforward first. Healing in community. And we were talking before about the recording, about being selective about the communities that we join, because some of the stuff out there on social media isn't healing, is it?
True.
It's trauma bombing or trauma dumping, and there's no light at the end of the tunnel of some of the stuff that we see out there on social media. So we have to be kind of selective about what this is just my take. I want to learn from somebody that's ahead of me on the journey, not somebody that's even at the same stage at me,
Right.
or behind me on the journey. It's like you wouldn't want to learn French from somebody whose French was worse than yours, would you?
Correct.
But there seems to be quite a lot of influences out there, adoptees who are still really struggling, but they seem to attract people that are where they're at, and it makes that makes me really sad. It makes me sad that they're struggling, because I don't want anybody to struggle.
Right.
But it makes me even sadder that people are, like attracts like, and
Hmm.
people.
And
So
we're all on our journey at one stage or point, as from another. So I know that it took me a while. I got stuck in, rabbit holes and things like that. But I think that, I don't know, I feel I have a personal responsibility to maybe help others now, instead of being always the one to ask for help. And that's the 12th step of the AA program, where you give back to others what was so freely given to you. But I'm thankful that I became an alcoholic, because through the 12-step program, I was able to work my way through those steps to find just, a more self-awareness, self-actualization, I guess you might say, of how to deal with life in general. And they call it emotional sobriety.
Yeah. Emotional sobriety. That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, or emotional intelligence, or, just taking that pause. Like I think we were talking about earlier, you take a pause instead of being reactive all the time. And so then you're more present in your life, versus just being like a puppet of, you're going to be triggered by anything and everything, or choose to stay stuck in where you are because you're just too fearful to move anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm listening to the, have you read the Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey book?
Oh, love that book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Somebody mentioned it, recommended it to me yesterday, so I've been reading it, listening to it today. And that's what, if you're interested in understanding the brain science behind that,
Yes.
the puppet, you use the word puppet, we're puppets, because Bruce Perry describes this, doesn't it, as it's the signal is transmitted, or the thought, it originates in the brainstem, which is, as he puts it, the dumbest part of our brain.
Yes.
And that's when we are reacting without thought. So we're reacting. A great mentor of mine a few years ago made a very simple distinction between reacting and responding. So the reacting is the knee-jerk reaction, no thought, coming from the bottom part of the brainstem, and that's the kind of the fight or flight bit, isn't it? Versus responding, which is
more contemplative.
Yes. Yeah. So the other bit that you were talking about, the holy mystery, was you were talking about, you thought, I think if I was trying to sum it up, you'd reduce God to the angry dad in the sky with the white beard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, is that what you said? You kind of you narrowed it down. So if that's at the narrow end, if that's at the narrow end of the wedge, what's at the other end of the wedge?
Wow, there's a question for you. I guess that's where I come in with the idea, think of a web, how everything is connected to everything else and everything has impact on everything else. And I just think life in general is based on relationship, whether you're talking about humans relating to each other or you're talking about atoms and molecules, it all depends on relationship. And the holy mystery to me is just the entire, production of an ever expanding universe. And we're all connected to that. And I choose to be thrilled about that and feel it and respond in my life to that invitation to be part of it.
Yeah. As you were talking, a little thing came to my mind that I saw a couple of weeks ago. So I was I've been on holiday in Greece and walking to have a swim each morning. I walked through down a road that's been cut out of a pine forest, and there were two pine trees within about 10 foot of each other, and one branch had actually grown from one of these trees horizontally and was actually embedded in the other one. So instead of being two separate trees, it was like a letter H, a capital letter H, with a crossbar between two trees.
Yes. I'm visualizing that right now.
And I've never seen anything like that before.
They probably became interdependent upon each other too.
Yeah. So, yeah, that because the web of relationships and the expanded universe, that sort of big picture thinking sometimes blows my mind. So this little practical thing that I saw is kind of like,
that really speaks to it. That speaks directly to it.
Yeah. And it's just a little baby step way of me taking it. So let's go into this. Let's go into this, the expanded universe of relationships and the webs, the web. What, we don't mean the World Wide Web, I'm presuming. So how did you come to that? How did you come to that realization? Do you remember?
I do believe it was when I read The Cosmic Christ from Richard Rohr.
Right.
He's an American friar. I'm not a Catholic, but he's a priest or a father. And anyway, his idea is all that inclusiveness and that you just can't discount one thing without the other, that it's all connected. And it can't be my team. It kind of goes back to tribal, of where my tribe's better than yours and you do things like that. So we're just going to make sure that we're not nice to you. It's just a very small way of thinking. But when you think about the web and that everything thrives and expands upon the other, everything's necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, even the bad stuff, and I hate to think of it that way, but you need contrast to be able to know if something is good versus bad. You have to have some kind of contrast of, I've experienced something good, so I kind of know that this thing is not great.
Yeah. And
then know all the gradients in between. That's kind of like, on a spectrum of being able to think non-dualistically is what Richard Rohr says, or not black and white. You see the shades of gray.
Yeah.
And it all matters. It all goes together. It's all a whole. And that's integration.
Yeah. Fascinating.
I talk a lot about my parts in the book. I meet my different earlier parts of myself. And I had to invite them all It wasn't that, oh, I really hate that part. I don't want that part to show up. No, everyone's welcome. Everyone's invited. And which is not to say that you can't refine yourself and choose whether you want to have, something remain the same or not. But everyone was welcome.
Yeah.
And they all played their very integral parts in the whole thing, in the whole system.
Yeah. Oh, we're not supposed to do dead air on podcasts, you just took me into a deep
Okay.
place, Emma. So that's good. That's good.
I told you I'm a better writer than I am a speaker.
Well, I think you're making a pretty good fist of it. You used the word non-dualistic. Have you heard of a guy called? Did I mention this guy before when we spoke last time? A guy called Rupert Spira.
Oh, is he the one that you sent me a video of, a YouTube?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, he was awesome. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, he's the guy I'm listening to all the time at the moment, or watching his YouTube. Well, I listen to the YouTube videos when I'm walking the dog, or I listen to his podcast. Yeah, so he's into this thing called non-duality, which is
yes,
the essence of all great religions before they got corrupted.
Right.
If
and actually
I might get some nasty stuff about that. Yeah, the origins. He talks about the origins of all
right.
religions.
Yeah.
That we are one, and when we are one, he describes he defines the fact of our oneness, that we are one. He defines that as love. Mm-hmm. The experience of his love is the experience of oneness, and the opposite of what is he? Yeah, love and peace. So there's no war when we're all one. There's no conflict. Mm-hmm. We can disagree without enmity, without anger towards one another.
Yeah, that's really huge. I mean, just made me think of something that I've discovered recently about conflict is necessary in a good relationship. My past was, okay, conflict, I guess I better leave now. And that's not true. And that's something I've been working on, of healthy conflict. It just strengthens a relationship, regardless of if, any kind of relationship, whatever you're talking about. Yeah. It's necessary. It's growth.
So do you mean conflict, or do you mean disagreement?
Right. Yeah. Just any differing opinion.
Difference. Yeah. Difference. Yeah.
Any difference.
Difference.
And we don't always need people just telling us we're spot on and you're terrific, you're awesome. Sometimes we do need to hear an opposing view to get perspective.
Yeah. But it's an opposing view without we're agreeing to disagree.
Right, not tearing down.
Not tearing down.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So have you got any more thoughts on the Holy Mystery?
The word being grateful came to my head, but I know that with a lot of adoptees, we've made that, somewhat, we've changed the meaning of that word, but I'm also an alcoholic in recovery. And so if I didn't agree to being grateful, if I don't feel that gratitude for a lot of different things, I feel like I could stay addicted to my struggle. And I choose not to do that. So the
Yeah.
Holy Mystery helps me keep choosing every day to be grateful, not toxic positivity, but, you know, and not to ignore the things that do need to be changed. I'm very much about social justice and, you know, reform. But I also, I'm choosing that new path.
Yeah. I got accused of that toxic positivity.
There's a huge difference, I think.
Yeah.
From true reading.
Isn't toxic positivity in the eye of the person that hears it rather than, sorry, in the ears of the person that hears it rather than the voice of the person that says it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it could be both ways. I see what you're saying. But I feel like toxic positivity means that the person saying it is in denial of things that are present and very real in, you know, consensual reality. So then you're telling a false story just to make it happy.
Yeah. I think I'm a bit lost there. I'm not as bright as you on that.
No. Well, the toxic would label it already.
Can you give me an example? Could you give me an example of what that could be?
Okay. Well, here's a personal thing. I'm very much in knee deep or neck deep, actually, in trying to care for my elderly parents. I'm trying to orchestrate all the caregivers, all the medications, all the doctors, being in charge of their finances, their taxes. It just goes on and on. Now, if I were just to say, oh, you know, I just feel like that's what I'm led to do, and I'm so happy to be there for them. And while a certain amount of that is true, I also have the ability to say, this is freaking killing me. And it's a little bit selfish to ask someone else to prop you up and not, you can't pull everyone else down with you. Oh gosh, I know this isn't making any sense. It's just a very difficult situation. And if I tried to just put a total positive spin on it, it would be a lie.
Yeah, it would be a lie. Yeah.
I don't like lying.
No, me neither. I was brought up pretty strong on the truth. And that gets me into trouble sometimes because I say things.
It's a hard road to take, Simon. Telling the truth is the road less traveled, which is one of the first inspirational books I ever read.
All right, no, I've
remember that one?
I've heard a lot of quotes from it over the years, but I've never actually read it.
Yeah, by someone named Scott. I think Scott is in his name. I can't remember. The road less traveled.
Yeah, Scott Peck or something.
That's it. Yep, that's it.
So for me, the Holy Mystery is all of what you said. You know, that oneness stuff. We're all one. I think the web is a great metaphor for it. You know, we are the universe. I don't know. If it's all one, then there is no two. So we are the universe as well as like the whole shebang. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And that is, you know, mind bending for me sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. It's a much bigger picture, right?
Yeah, lots more perspective. The Holy Mystery for me is also that new idea, that new thought, that insight, that perspective shift, that epiphany. The Holy Mystery is, so we live in a world that kind of worships mindset, psychology. Yeah, worships mindset and psychology. And if I just take this away from adoption for a while, for an example, is, if you, I don't know if are you into, do you watch any sport? I'm not a big sports fan, but occasionally I watch a bit of sport. I watch some rugby or something like that. Do you ever watch
Yeah, not much for me,
Not
I'm
much
afraid. No.
Whenever, so the England are playing Scotland at rugby, right? So the match starts at 2:00. They'll have an hour's debate about what's going to happen in the match, and then they'll have the match, and then they'll have a commentary going on all the way through. Then they'll have a load of analysis at half time, and then the match continues, the commentary continues, and about 80%. And so the different commentators and the pundits, they're all ex-rugby players, right? So they know what they're talking about. But they only talk about rugby for maybe 20% of the time. They talk about the team's mindsets probably 80% of the time. So it's all a big worshipping of mindset and psychology, and they're trying to plumb the depths of this, and they've got home advantage. They've been beaten 3 times on the last outings. Will they come back from it? It's all this big psychodrama, right? And it's all perfectly rational. None of them agree with one another. They all got a different point of view, but it's all very rational, right? So we're worshipping thought. They're addicted to their thought too, right? They're addicted to their thought. But the holy mystery is when our thinking has been like this for 30 years, and suddenly something clicks and we see the world differently.
Yes.
And every psychologist that I ever hear, I always think they're really plausible, but we're not our thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
Why are we trying to change our thoughts? Because thoughts don't think, do they?
No.
No? We've got to go upstream of the thoughts. We're upstream of the thoughts to the holy mystery of who we are, or the unknowing. We've got to be open to changing our thought. I know people that have gone to kind of personal development things, and they've been so challenged that they've left.
Yeah. That crack in their denial, maybe.
Well, yeah. And I've sat in some of those things and asked the presenters to explain what they mean, and challenge what they say, and thought about, so this is another one that's a non-adoption comment. So I was doing a small business, an entrepreneurs course, and 2 people sat at the front of or stood at the front of and they were supposed to be like our course tutors. And one was an accountant, and the other one was somebody that used to work as a senior executive in a large business. And they were explaining, they were explaining that qualification, those experiences that they had as why they were good business mentors for small business. And I thought, well, no, these we're all one-man bands here, or one-woman bands, and we're just starting off, and so what I want to who I want to hear from is somebody that started small and then grown their own business, and then they can help me, mentor me, and do something. Not somebody that's worked in corporate and worked their way up, not somebody that's gone from university into a large accountancy firm and worked their way up there.
Right.
But I didn't walk out. I just thought that these people aren't the best people to be
right.
Teaching this stuff. And then, you know, they gave and then they gave an example of how to test demand for a product, and they gave this, you know, and bearing in mind we're all one-man bands entrepreneurs. The example that the woman gave was somebody spending $3 million on an ad break for during the Super Bowl to see whether people bought a new product, and I just thought, that's a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
So, you know, I stayed the course, and I stayed the course all the way through, and just took what I could do. I didn't kind of walk out. So I took us down a bit of a side street there. So the holy mystery for me is, where does, you know, that moment of change, that insight, and that's what the Thriving Adoptees podcast is all about. It's about me interviewing people about the insights that they've had along their adoption journey, in the hope that catalyzes more insights among the listeners. And that's what I'm always trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I just want to finish off by asking you one more question, and then I'm going to ask you something different. But another quote that really stood out for me. So we've talked about addicted to our own way of thinking, and for me, and then we talked about the holy mystery, and for me, the holy mystery is when we have what breaks our addiction to our way of thinking, or what breaks our addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a mystery, but if we stay the course and we persist with it, we persist in the hard work, we keep on going on keep on riding through the challenges, and we're always doing this intentionally, then we find ourselves out of the darkness into the light. You also talked about the fact that, I love this quote, oak trees need wind to grow strong roots. What does that?
Well, I think that goes back to the comment that I said a little earlier, I think, about we all need contrast, because if we didn't have anything to gauge, you know, kind of have a barometer on of what makes something good or medium or great, terrific, how would we even know? And I think, you know, for a tree, they depend, it's a relationship again with the wind, because if it didn't have that constant force, then the tree wouldn't have the strong roots. So it's dependent upon the wind, which is kind of an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, and you've reminded me of a question that came to my mind that I didn't ask earlier on. So you said that did you say that you were grateful that you'd been an alcoholic?
I'm very grateful, because it's what brought me to my knees, to have that epiphany moment of wanting a different life, wanting to make different choices. And if I didn't have something that dramatic, I feel like I would have just continued on in a low grade, low vibrational way of, you know, just being mediocre and not figuring anything out. Yeah. And I needed something so dramatic to stop me dead in my tracks, to say, enough of this. This is not what I want. Yeah. And other people have that too, but they still choose something different. So I don't know. I can't tell you what the difference is.
That's the holy mystery.
That's the holy mystery. Yes, exactly.
And we have to, yeah,
And you know,
we
if
have
we
to
did,
we have to decode the mystery
yeah,
for ourselves. But when we talk about our own decoding, it often doesn't make any sense to anybody.
right. And I feel like we're all offered that invitation. And it's up to us. We have choice of whether we want to accept or decline or ignore. And if you ignore, then you're basically choosing.
Yeah. Well, I think if people are still listening now, they're pretty open. So I would make a suggestion if you're still feeling open, listeners,
Okay.
and that would be suggestion would be to click on the link below and in the show notes to Emma's book, The Gathering Place. Yeah.
Yes.
Gathering Place. Yeah. And see if it see if the blurb on Amazon other bookshops are available, as they say. See if it makes sense. And that, I think that would probably be my final thing, other than to say, Emma, is there a question that you'd like me to have asked, or you'd like to ask me before we wrap it up?
Okay, here's one, Simon. How do you know when you're in your true self versus your false self?
I'm in the flow.
Yeah.
I've not got a lot on my mind. It's not about mindset. I don't want a mind that is set. I want a mind that is empty. I want my mind to be blown.
Yes.
I want my mind to be blown, and I want to be living in the holy mystery, and feeling good. I don't want a lot on my mind. Life is better when I have less on my mind. Psychology, spirit, the holy mystery always trumps psychology or mindset for me.
Right. Those are all just tools for us to learn from, but not to make final decisions about, right? It's good information, but it's not the end all.
No, it's a pointer to the holy mystery.
Yeah.
So my approach is to explore the holy mystery, because I've spent a lot of time using the tools, and the tools help me along my way, but they're in the past.
They can be restrictive too, right? They can be so limiting if you just say, well, psychology says this, and not think of outside the box. You need to.
Well, thinking is, as a great mentor of mine, Richard Wilkins, says, thinking is the box.
Yes.
So if we are addicted to our if we are addicted to our own way of thinking, then we are in the box. Here's one for you. Well, our limiting beliefs about ourselves are the prison that keeps us confined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But then when we realize there's no such thing as limiting beliefs, I put this is a bit of a weird one, right? I'll just try it on you. The idea that there is such a thing of limiting beliefs is in fact a limiting belief.
Right.
What are they made of? What are limiting beliefs made of? They're just made of thought. Well, we're not our thoughts, so got to go upstream of the thoughts. to the holy mystery that's thinking.
Yeah, that's just ever expanding. There is no end. It's infinity.
Indeed.
And we can actually connect with that.
Yeah.
We have that ability.
Yeah. We do.
Mm-hmm.
Especially fantastic way out people like you and me.
Right.
Sorry, if we've lost you, ladies and gentlemen, I apologise for that. Maybe we're being a bit self-indulgent, but hey, I was really looking forward to this interview, this conversation, and it's by far exceeded my expectations. And yeah, the holy mystery. That's what it is. So check
Thank you
out
so much, Simon.
Thank you. And thank you to listeners. And we will speak to you again very soon. Bye-bye.